At the edge of the universe, 400 men and women are probing the immeasurable blackness of space. Their leaders are an Earthman with no fear and a stranger with no heart. Travel beyond our time and solar system, into new galaxies, into worlds beyond your dreams. Star Trek, every week, in color.
Holy moly, why so blue? If you're sad, you know what it's time to do? Watch Serious Star Trek Fridays at noon. And now here's your co-hosts. You know him, you love him. He's Captain Fun, Larry Young, and Dr. John. Hey, what's happening, guys?
John Price. Let's talk about Star Trek for a change. Oh my God, that's my first thing. I was gonna bring that up. I was looking for stuff to nitpick for the latest episode of Strange New Worlds because I loved it. I loved it more than Darmok. That's probably gonna wear off, but I'm so happy that there was actually a fucking Star Trek episode for a change that I got all excited. Except the one thing I have to say, Ethan Peck's doing a great job. He's Mr. Spock now. It's great. Except you can't fucking do your symbol like that. It's like I can't believe they went through that. It's always boom with the shoulder. There's the character, like Price did it correct, right? The shot of him flipping to Pring, the whatever that is, the Vulcan.
When he goes like this.
Yeah, it's like dude, it's not away from you. You look like a fucking moron who just learned how to do it. Anyway. If that's all I get to say, though, that episode was great.
He is the moron who just learned how to do it.
I know Price has probably got something to say. That episode was great. Uh-oh, Dan's got his volume off again.
I think that actor really pulls it off. I think he is great. He's Mr. Spock for sure. Plus, like, just very good, his kind of subtle mannerisms that he had to pull off throughout the show. Like, yeah, I was in there the whole time, and funny jokes too, like good Spock jokes.
It was a Star Trek episode. You know what I mean? The first four were pretty decent, but this one was a Star Trek episode. It was actually more Star Trek than your usual and it's all about the story, right? They have a mission. A diplomatic thing is going wrong, right? But at the same time, there's some shore leave stuff. So you get to see what the characters do in their downtime. So that's a great way to do a little characterization. And it brings the audience because they're like, I'm like in love with Dr. Mabenga now. It's like, right? There's all this shit going on. He's like, fuck you guys, I'm fishing. You know? I'm like, yes, that guy's got a character. And it's thumbnailed, but you know, I just love that. And then they figure out the diplomatic mission going wrong just so they can see something from somebody else's point of view. Like, that's the level of woke Star Trek, right? Not just like, hey, look, we got black guys and Asian kids. No, it's like philosophical wokeness, right? Let's see something from somebody else's point of view. And oh my God, there's a new guy in the Federation. How great is that? See you next week, kids. I was crying how much it was a Star Trek episode. It was great. And the one other thing, I don't feel like I'm on meth, but I love Nurse Chapel, right? She and Ortegas are the two people I love that they just like want to be there. So let's do some fucking shit in Star Trek. This is great. So I get taken along by characters like that. And then this sounds like a little off in the tributary of the river, but it'll come right back. You guys know I love Lower Decks. And so I was like crazy crying happy manly tears when there's just some random thing where Nurse Chapel is wearing the white medical boots, like from Lower Decks, you know, and it was like super subtle and it probably wasn't intentional, but they were like low cut white boots. And I'm like, okay, what are those boots? Because I need that for my blue Lower Deck shirt. Anyway. All right,
well, I enjoyed it thoroughly. I think the radical empathy theme was, you know, in all of the A, B, and C plots, right? That was the whole thing, seeing something through the other person's eyes, and it gives me hope that there's going to be closure on that Gorn nonsense we talked about last time, and because that was in direct opposition to sort of the message from the previous episode that when she talked about how some people are just evil. So I feel like the series is really going to is trying to look at things through different perspectives. That's like a theme. The whole religious episode with the comet as well. I like that balance they're trying to put on things perspective-wise, for sure. I loved it. I give it an A. This was the best episode of the season. Once you got past the establishing episode.
It's far and away the best Star Trek of the modern days. Far and away. I think. I love John Swenches came in the comments already. Says he has a serious crush on Jenna Bush. Like, yeah. You John, and everybody else. She's just so adorable. I'm getting so like Mr. Kyle. I think that throwaway line where the two ensigns are like, he's so funny. Mean.
That was like, the fun. I actually laughed. I was
but I loved it. I'm like, hey, there are two people on the crew that think that guy's the biggest asshole on the planet. Like, that's awesome. It's just, that's how you give character without really trying hard. You know, her likes to sing. Spock's got his boom, 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 hanging up on the wall. Like, this episode was just great. It was great.
I liked how they made him a dick, that Mr. Kyle a dick. I like that they made number one and Lon just uptight nerds like everybody has at their office. Like, it's office outing time, guys. We're gonna go, we're going down to the river. They're like, no, we're staying, maintaining everything and nerding out in their own dorky way. But it gave them character. It made them endearing, and two were the two least endearing characters for sure, or two of the least endearing characters on the series. It gave you it let you like Lon a little bit in this episode.
I wouldn't go that far. It gave you an understanding.
It did humanize her.
Right.
It humanized her. Yeah, like when she's like, "Oh, you're fun." It's a little goofy. It's just a moment of like humanity in a character that doesn't. She's not just like an arch villain or a one-note character. I like that.
John has a great point that there's no chemistry between Lon and Una, but I don't think there's supposed to be. Those are both like pretty tightened up characters. So two people that don't know how to socializing was kind of a cool.
Right. Them being awkward with each other is part of it. Yeah.
And of course, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
No.
I was just going to say, of course, I paused the Enterprise bingo and like looked through everything. And I'm like, this show is going to make me mad because they're doing shit with a transporter you can't do.
Yes.
So like, it's like if you can put a new piece of gum in somebody's mouth, everyone in the Federation should be immortal. I talk about this all the time. It's like,
or just genetically defective or something, right?
If you can get it down to that point, you just beam back when you didn't have cancer and you're fine.
Yes.
You just beam back when you had your wisdom teeth if you need them for some reason. I mean, it's, Halloween, everybody would be like, hey, look, my costume is me when I was 15. I mean, this whole like anyway. The
chewing gum, not to nitpick the chewing gum, Larry, but was the idea there though? I thought the idea was like, it's almost a glitch in the transporter that nobody ever really realized before, that chewing gum retains its flavor. I didn't sense that they did something specific to make the flavor come back, sort of thing.
Oh, really? That's all I got from it. They were like reflavoring the gum, right?
Mario comments the exact thing I was about to say, which is Mario says, I didn't like that the bingo was just a list.
Yeah.
That's not how bingo works. I was about to literally say that. I'm like, that's not bingo. That's just a list of things to do.
Yeah, but what would you call it, right? I mean,
I don't know. That's not bingo.
People do that, like Super Bowl bingo. You like get the Budweiser ad and stuff. I get why they called it that.
We would do boardroom bingo back in my office days.
Yeah, I totally. That doesn't bother me.
But that had a square. And you had to get bingo, and
what bothered me though is one of the things.
On that detail.
One of the things they had to do was sit in the captain's chair, and then they didn't show it. because I was like, well, number one, sitting in the captain's chair is gonna happen, and the head of security, it's not unlikely. So like, what's the big deal there? But for ensigns sitting in the captain's chair, I totally get it.
That's
But then I think if anybody's
it's going to come back on lower decks, they're going to have Rito's bingo.
If anybody's cool about it, though, it's Captain Pike. He's like, oh, you guys playing bingo? All right, take your pictures. Just get out of here. But like Captain Picard would be like, in the brig fort until I tell you to come out. What the fuck? I just wanted my
get the boy off of the bridge.
Yeah, Pike is so the friendly new age Silicon Valley boss guy. Like he's so like just like the boss who's just like your pal boss and not your boss. You know what I mean? He's the friendly boss. He's the guy around the office. He's like, he's pals with everybody. What's up, champ? Hey, sport. He's got a little nickname. Yeah. He's like,
but I think Pike's much better than that.
It's an earned confidence, though. You can tell Pike has been through it, and he, I love Anson Mount. I think he's doing a great job.
I love how he's the guy that, though, they kind of dressed this in the episode where he's like, all right, everybody, I'm going to shoot you if that's like cool with everybody. I mean, that's a really tough line to walk. And he does it like without even trying. So I think that's really cool.
You didn't miss him having him glance into a mirror accidentally for a moment and realize his own death was imminent.
No, I hope they forget that.
Yeah, never again.
Never mention it again.
Never mention it again.
Yeah, just have the green jacket really bothered me.
Oh my god, we need to talk about that. I brought that up to.
Okay, tell me what's wrong with that green. I remember Kirk. That's like the dress uniform, right? Like
it's the iconic green jacket, the wraparound. Right.
So the idea was that they wanted to give the captain something different to wear. It's actually first season. In they're just like, here's a little thing that sets him apart from everybody. And there's even two versions of it. So this is their version, which is, I totally get what they're doing. And I even understand one of the main things that bugs me is it has that fake leather and then fabric. So, but it's the future. They figured out a way to do that, I guess. That's cool. It just looks horrific because you have the shiny reflection from the stage lights or the floor or whatever. But the thing that bugged me so much was it has two insignias.
This guy right here.
Yeah. I mean, come on. You don't need it up here if it's down by your waist. There you go.
I literally said that to my wife while we were watching it, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Like, who cares? Who cares? You and me. Like,
we're the only people.
Like, I don't even want to watch this show anymore. Yeah. It's got two insignias.
Like, I'm out.
But I'm just so happy that's the level of stuff that bothers me now. It's like, all right, you guys get a 99 out of 100 instead of the like cheering that they get like a 52, like usual,
Yeah,
like,
Discovery. You're hoping there's one good scene.
Right.
I don't know, guys. I'm having a hard time with Strange New Worlds, and I'm gonna be honest with you. This isn't a shtick. I'm not doing a thing. Like I have a hard time with this show because it is good, right? This episode was good. I liked all of it. It all works together. There's proper Star Trek sci-fi themes going on, right? But it's a TOS reboot. And they're never going to call it a TOS reboot. They're never going to say it's a different universe like the J.J. Abrams movies. Like, literally, if all they did was say, hey, guys, we're in a multiverse situation. Now we're in timeline X. Honestly, I might actually enjoy watching it instead of sitting there just harumphing the whole time. Yeah, like, I like it. I like Anson Mount. I don't particularly like Rebecca Romaine, which is
I don't either.
But I think it's intentional, which I don't anyway. Yeah. But I like some of the side characters, right? But it's like, why is Chief Kyle a 90-pound Asian guy? Like, why? Like, why are they making these choices? Like, the visuals are cool, the stories are good, the directing is good. They finally understand how to tell a story within this new Star Trek regime, right? But I can't get into it. And I'm sure we're gonna talk about the Orville later, where it's like the Orville, like objectively speaking, this was a better start. They're two complete. So the Orville is more Star Trek in its storytelling right now than Star Trek is, right? But I want Star Trek to be up there, and it's not. And I just like, I don't know. I don't know how to articulate this. Like, I'm not, and I know a lot of fans are having the same frustrations because I'll see it on social media where people are like, yeah, this actually wasn't bad, but I still hate it. You know, where it's like maybe it's my fault, right? Maybe it's my fault because I've spent the last 5 years hating literally every second of Star Trek that's been produced.
That could be.
Maybe that's my fault, right? And if we need to create like a Star Trek Anonymous group, you know, where we can get over our hatred issues. I don't know. I legitimately, I'm not doing a shtick. Like I legitimately don't know how to react to this.
No. Let me help you because you're 100% right. It's a TOS reboot, but I don't get where the problem is with that.
Like, I love TOS.
No, I know, but fucking thank God, right? We're never going back to that. And all the fan films that duplicate it exactly just look stupid. And to me, because it's so I get it. They finally figured it out.
I don't want to go back. I want to go forward.
Well,
right?
but no, I know. But given the world we live in,
sure.
given what the bean counters are saying, they're trying to maximize the Star Trek thing, and they couldn't figure it out because they weren't doing Star Trek. And so now they figured it out. And okay, Captain Kirk is called Pike now, but you know, if you called him Captain Kirk, you wouldn't have to recast Anson Mount. He's just doing that full-on Starfleet captain thing. So right on, right? I don't have the problem. It's like my issue is kind of the opposite, is that I've hated modern Star Trek this whole time. So I'm really glad to see what I liked in Star Trek show up again. And it's not exactly, you know, I mean, it's not what I would do, but who cares, right? We're just fanboys.
Well, and to that point, just real quick, to that point, I'm glad it's not what I would do, because that gives me the freedom to sit on my laptop and do what I want to do. Right? You know what I mean? So it's like I don't want them to tell the story that's in my head. I want them to tell different stories, right? So that kind of critique is perfectly valid. Like I don't want them to do what I want them to do, which is weird. So, I don't know. I don't know. I'm having a hard time, you guys. I don't know.
Guys, what I thought this episode was very unusual in that it was had a ton of homages, obviously, to Amok Time and such, that were really well done, put in there in a nice way, not shoehorned, done in a dream sequence in a way that made total sense. Loved every bit of the thing with the bells and all the like set stuff that they caught. Even I remembered that. I'm like, I haven't watched that episode forever. I remember those freaking bells. But you know, the credits didn't come. The opening credits didn't come till 15 minutes into the episode. Mm-hmm. The pacing is very different than any traditional Star Trek episode. The ending the way it ended on a totally different side. It didn't end on da 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 or any of that bullshit. It like was a song that was just thematically appropriate to everything that was going on. I think the writing of this episode anyway was top notch. They did it. The theme throughout the A, B, and C story and the thread, it was actually funny in parts. You know, this is as good as it's going to get, I think, in 2020.
I agree with that.
I agree with you. Yeah.
My kid, though, who's like, he loves the original series, and it's funny. I don't know why, because I've exposed him to all things of Star Trek, and he can kind of take, you know, Wrath of Khan and those movies because it's the guys he's familiar with. But he just doesn't respond to modern Star Trek. And this one, he was like, he freaked out. It's like, okay, that's where, you know, there's the Lurpa and there's the Anwoon and there's the Kroika. And he was like, the fight music. And he's like, every single thing. He's like, there's the green jacket. Okay, this is all great. And he gets to the end where they have the song. And he looks at me and he goes, they just can't help themselves, can they? Like he was there until the end, and then he doesn't
Until
know
the
this
end.
reference, but he's aware of it. But it's like it turned it instantly into an Ally McBeal episode, and
That's hilarious.
it's
and I like that they weren't. I like that they weren't afraid to try something like that. It was a really interesting moment in them. I thought it was great.
The friggin' guys are putting the flag up. Like you get the idea. You don't need the "it's been a long road" bullshit. Just get that out of my Star Trek. Sorry. Like,
well, I thought the lyrics to that song were seemed like a big ripoff of "Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places," the classic country tune.
I'm sure it was fine and appropriate, but like I had the red haze of mist and anger on, so like I just once that happens, I was like, I probably would have been fine if I watched it by myself, but my kid was like, oh, they can't help themselves, and I'm like, that's so like exactly my problem that I was trying to not admit to myself. I'm like, anyway.
Yeah.
Don't have kids.
And
that's the takeaway, John.
Mario said it's too silly. Love the Bolian. The Bolian were the aliens, right? I loved them.
No, the Bolian was the blue crying. The blue ensign.
The blue ensign
that talked to number one. She was
okay.
like, "Yeah, I'll have my coffee and stuff."
Yeah.
That's everybody loves that race because we were introduced to he was the Enterprise barber. Next
Mott, Mr. Mott.
Yeah.
I mean, this episode, it was very Lower Decks. Everything I like about Lower Decks, they did in this episode, which again, on paper, if you're
verified,
like, Price, you love Lower Decks, you're gonna love this episode. But like, again, there's just something not clicking for me. And again, it's very possible I'm the problem, but I don't know. I just don't know.
That's what I read on social media.
Well, yeah,
you're John Price is the problem.
Yeah. Speaking of social media, guys, just quick aside.
Slow on the draw on that one. Sorry, Larry.
Aside here.
That's okay.
If you are on social media and you're out there giving your opinions and your hot takes and everything, and someone disagrees with you, it doesn't mean you're being targeted or harassed or trolled. It means you put yourself out there and someone reacted because you wanted a reaction. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I don't
That's all I'm going to say about that.
I don't get people getting angry about that. It's like, I don't hate you because I disagree with you about this fucking minor point of Star Trek. It's like, I'm just talking to you because you're the one guy who I know right now that knows who a Bolian is, right?
Yeah.
It's not, it's like we have so much more in common than we have different. I don't get why people do that, but I'm an old man.
People take online arguing way too personally. And it's like, let's just talk about, please.
If you're arguing on Twitter, like if you're putting a thing out there on Twitter and you consider it like targeted harassment, to me is a thing that gets bandied about. Like if you're getting swarmed because you had a stupid hot take, that's what Twitter's all about. That's actually kind of what you're in the game for.
Yeah, that's what you get.
That's what you wanted. That's what you wanted.
Make your hot take better.
1,000 replies.
Yeah. Anyway, that's why I'm not on Twitter. Because you get so much shit on Twitter, John. I'm like, that doesn't look entertaining.
Larry, you would own Twitter. It'd be amazing.
No.
I agree with this. Like when they are they gonna like rock and roll and who knows what kind of music will they really be into that far in the future? It's almost impossible to say.
I like in Voyager they tried to do, and they brought it back in the Lower Decks, the Klingon death metal. That's always that's my favorite Star Trek music joke. But there's a reason they always did classical music, other than they didn't want to pay for royalties. It's because they're trying they're trying to detach it from a specific set time in your for the audience, right? So it's like when friggin' Discovery had that like Lenny Kravitz song. It's like, I guess you like Lenny Kravitz 400 years in the future.
You could almost argue for any other kind of music, right? Like you have some kind of like any other thing other than something from Elvis on, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah.
Like maybe if you built an episode around, there's a great science fiction book called The Elvis Mandible, where they find.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah, they find his jaw, and it's a thing. But like, if you build an episode around Elvis, okay, I get that, but that's really the line, right? Because everything else is people that walk the earth still remember as just. You can make the argument that, like, you know, there was a famous trumpet man from out Chicago way, some World War II thing. You could, that would work in a Star Trek, but come on, man. I don't know. Now I want to put, who are those girls, the Pointer Sisters, in a Star Trek.
Well, it's
right,
that's right.
Andrew's sisters, I think.
That's Andrew's sisters. That's something that, you know, Barclay would do in a holodeck. I get that. But now this is like, you know, I kind of don't even like how palatial Starbase One looks like. Your first Starbase should be like a tent.
I don't
like
like
Jamestown on the moon, right? And
it's oriented the wrong way.
Yeah. Anyway,
Starfleet has an aesthetic that goes down, and this fucker goes up. Anyway, it's all stupid. But Battlestar Galactica got into the music issue by making their entire last season based around All Along the Watchtower.
Yeah.
Like, that alone should tell people how bad of an idea it is. Anyway, all right.
So as to where they were, the Starbase, at the end, when they're sitting outside, when they're on top of signing the Enterprise, right? Mm-hmm. Now, it was confusing to me because I thought earlier they were busted with like compression or with space suits trying to do that task. So how are they out? Like, there's an atmosphere, they're in some kind of force field.
Yeah,
what's
they
going
did
on?
a force field.
My kid and I talked about this for 10 minutes because he just looked at me and he goes, yeah, explain that one. And I'm like, easy. The force field is fucking command crew. So they just used their Black American Expresses and walked out there because it's easier. The schlubs are like, fuck, the only way we get away with this is going out in our spacesuits. Like, so that made total sense to me. I'm like, I don't want it to be an easy thing for the scrubs, right?
They're also probably paranoid. You know, they're kind of rookies.
I mean, the power level alone is going to set off alarms. Look at what who's got a force field on the outside of the ship? That's going to ask too many questions. But two friggin' schmoes that are probably high, believe me, because one was laughing and one was crying. They get into their exosuits and try to sneak out. Like, opening an airlock is probably not as big a deal. And like, Lon might have known it, but she gets distracted because she's doing her own shit, right?
Yeah, and they're running the ship themselves. So they can do what they
I don't know that. But I will note that my kid had a problem with that and made me stop my life and explain what I thought happened. So
I love that.
Like, that's better than like Discovery. He won't even watch it. Like Picard, he watched the first one and was like, I don't care. So like, him having like, oh, give me your Star Trek shit, Daddy, for 10 minutes is like, this episode was my dream. I really enjoyed it.
Well, I had an alternative explanation for that because
isn't that awesome?
Well, that is a good answer. Yeah. That is a good explanation, but it doesn't explain. This is where I went, Larry, and this is as nerdy as it's going to get. When that solar sail unfurled, and it was flapping, and there's no wind in space. There's nothing in space. A solar sail is rigid in outer space, so there's some kind of atmospheric field inside of dry dock for Enterprise.
No,
I have. Wait, let's ask the computer. What is the computer thing, Larry? Wait, let's ask it.
No,
let's ask it.
Update your stuff on. So solar wind will furl out the Mylar. It will do.
So will Stanley Kubrick.
It doesn't. You don't need wind, right? You're just wiggling the fabric. So as it furled, it was expanding out, right?
Okay, all right.
And then the solar wind hit it, which is particles of whatever, right? Radiation. That's what moves it. So that was all science fiction correct. Let's put it that way. I'm no Eugene Ragasa. I don't know if the science is there, but I read Popular Mechanics every once in a while.
So Peerless Loser has a nice little comment here. You want to stick that up?
Sure, absolutely.
I'm a stagehand, and I worked at a Pointer Sister show a couple years ago. Couldn't believe how many songs they wrote from my childhood.
Yeah, that's
It
awesome.
would have been Pointer Sisters would have been fantastic.
That's what I love about talking with you guys. Like weird shit comes up, and then somebody we know goes, "Oh yeah,
I did that.
I donated a kidney to that."
So
You know,
this
it's
fact
awesome.
is I feel like they've just given themselves the license that they're gonna do something to erase Spock's memory of Lon sometime in the future of this series. There's just there's too much. There's no way the name wouldn't ring a bell to the computer mind dude. Doesn't make sense.
And the sad thing is, so far anyway, 5 episodes in, there's no reason for her to be Lon Noonien Singh. And stop hyphenating Noonien Singh, please.
Yeah.
But like, there's no reason for it. She like have the exact same character, the exact same character traits, and just call her Jane. You know, like there's no, and she's the exact same character. Nothing changes, right?
I agree. It's ridiculous. I don't even see a way they could pay it off, because without ruining old Star Trek.
Right.
So I mean, like, what's he doing there?
Is Noonien supposed to be a middle name?
Yeah, it's Khan Noonien Singh. Although I always thought Khan was his title, but
yeah,
I mean, I don't know that for a fact. I always thought Khan was his title, Khan Noonien Singh, and then of course Star Trek 2 comes around and Khan, you know, so everyone starts to believe that Khan is his first name, but they call him Khan Singh multiple times in the franchise. Yeah. DS9 does it. I'm pretty sure Voyager does it one time. Like, you know, they reference him. It's not Khan Noonien Singh. It's Khan Singh. You know?
I didn't our friend Aman Chowdhury explain that to us.
Yes.
About Singh being the cast or the class. I forget exactly what it was. Like that. But it's not technically a last name. It's more of a it's more of a Robin of Sherwood kind of thing. So then I just thought he had his name was Cher, right? But it was Noonien, and he was chief Cher of the Singh. You know, when I was a kid, because you know, Kubla Khan and all that shit I knew when I was a child.
So many other Noonien things.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Khan is a legit name too.
Sure.
And let's be honest,
I mean, I see how it happened.
How culturally aware were these Star Trek writers in the 60s? They're just like, that's a cool sounding name. It's good enough.
I think if any group of writers were culturally aware, it was probably them. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. They weren't, you know, there was no Wikipedia. They couldn't look it up. But
that's what I mean. But back then, it was like Frank Herbert would just kind of like take Arabic names and shoehorn them into his and just sort of like use them because they sound exotic and are interesting.
Well, it's like the story of the Ferengi, right? It's a Persian word. I don't know if Persian's the right language, but some sort of Middle Eastern word that means like traveler or merchant or something.
Yankee.
I know I'm screwing that up. I know I'm screwing that up. Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, this goes on to this day, actually. You know, when they talk about terrorists, you ever heard of the terrorist Abu Nidal? Or that name, Abu, actually means the father of Nidal. Like traditionally, my father, who I have a brother named Kerry, you would call my brother, whose name is John Shaheen, Isa Shaheen, you would call him Abu Karim. He's the father of his youngest son. It's almost like an alias that you're just known as, because that's how important the eldest son is in those cultures. So like there's all these misunderstandings about what is a real name and a pseudonym or a cultural thing. Like my name or my alter ego's name is Daniel Hanna Isa Brahim Sulaiman Abdullah Sulaiman Shaheen.
Oh, easy there, buddy.
Is that on your that's not on your license, because you wouldn't
put that on your driver's license. Yeah,
you wouldn't be able to fly just when somebody took a look at it.
That's automatic watch list right there. I don't know.
I have a funny thing about that, and that you said the son of Ibrahim. I don't know. Your brother would be the
Kareem.
Son of Kareem. So my whole life, all I wanted was a nickname, right? Because Larry's the fucking stupidest name in the world, And but I guess I was too singular, so you were just the Larry of the crowd. And then I have my kid, and there's a whole fucking raft of people who only know me as Walker's dad.
That's it. Yeah.
And the first time an adult went, "Hey, what's up, Walker's dad?" I was like, "Oh fuck, I got a nickname! Like the most incredible nickname ever." And then that was like a whole cultural thing as well that
Absolutely.
we just didn't know in the West, right? So that's I want.
You're Abu Walker, dude. You're Abu Walker.
Exactly. Anyway, I just want to get that off my chest.
Hey, Word Balloon says casting Montalbano's Khan was part of the whole thing of not casting appropriate ethnicities. Yeah, totally. Like they're like, he's dark enough. He'll pull it off. This'll work for what our viewers are aware of.
We were just talking about F Troop, so imagine trying to reboot that nowadays.
That would be fun.
Well,
at least Montalban's a good actor.
I mean, I think Ricardo was just cast for his gravitas, his just incredible. Who else?
Oh, his presence. Yeah, that's what you need for if you've got a planetary dictator. You need somebody like Rich Corinthian leather, right? I mean, am I right? Paint my picture.
It must have been a trip for people too, thinking about the future, their future 30 years away, and being ruled by these, Asian powers that are rising. Like that's definitely baked into the zeitgeist of the Cold War zeitgeist of Star Trek.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, they were totally proven. Did you see Hector showed up? What'd I miss? All right, let's sum it up for Hector. Nothing.
No, here's what we missed. It's people were pretty happy. I gave this episode an A of Strange New World. Larry gives it an A. John, where are you at?
Crying manly tears.
John,
what do you think, John? You hate it, or did we lose?
John's having an existential crisis. That's what John's doing.
You're conflicted. You want to like it, but you can't because of.
I like it, but I can't like it.
What they did to us for 5 years.
I still have. Speaking of traumatic backstories, I've had to watch Discovery for 4 years.
I was just thinking, not even that, like reading all the press, like for the 2 years before it.
Oh my God,
I count that as part of my tragic backstory because
the day they announced that they were gonna have the first black lead in Star Trek, I was like, this is not gonna go well.
This isn't going well.
This is we're already off the rails. It's 2016.
Yeah, Cisco doesn't count.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, but they were acting like everyone wasn't gonna remember that.
Yeah, they just didn't know. They didn't know. It's like Sunchers was saying earlier in the comments. They did an interview with the science advisor, and they are stupid, for lack of a better word. It's like they just don't know what they're talking about. So you're gonna get these ridiculous scenarios where they're walking on the outside of the ship, and no one can explain it. They don't care to explain it. So I don't know. John is conflicted.
Come on, really? They had
Dr. Price is having a hard time.
They had gravity boots. They can walk around. They're the.
I'm gonna echo the lack of a good science advisor on this. I guarantee you, there's gonna be some Neil deGrasse Tyson videos where he shits all over a lot of this.
I'm waiting for it,
as he loves.
Save me, Fat Lando. You're my only hope.
Verified. Anyway, how about getting to Orville? Because I'm gonna be the opposite. I'm taking the John Price position on this one. I was looking forward to Orville coming back, and I watched Strange New Worlds first. So I was like, all right, I got my Star Trek. That's great. Move. And it's been so long since Orville, I kind of like even forgot everybody. And they start off with, oh, here's the new chick that we're not even going to explain. She's just here, and she's been friends all along, and you probably missed the whole season because of the coronavirus. And they have like Vipers, and they have to explain what happened with Isaac, and he commits suicide. And I was like, you know what? I can't even finish this episode. What the fuck is going on? It's like Discovery and Orville swap places.
Yeah, it's a heavy episode.
Anyway.
I think they made a couple. I think it's a very good episode. I think they made a couple strategic errors, and one of them is what you're saying is making the whole thing revolve around Seth's new girlfriend, who nobody knows or cares about. And they gave her the backstory. All of her friends died in the big battle at the end of last season. I understand that, but I want to see Gordon screwing around on the bridge. Like, show me that. Like, get me back into it. It's been 5 years since the last season. So get me back into it.
That's going to be, I thought I was done with the first part, but I have one more sentence about that, in that that was a rough one to come back with, right?
Yes.
So that episode,
which on one hand is very brave of them. It's hey, we're going to give you this we're going to give you Colonel Blake dying, the premiere episode of the season, right? But
right. No, I
don't think that's a good move.
Like I said, I didn't.
But I liked it.
So maybe a couple episodes from now, I would have been fine. But I just needed a little more. Like, you don't need previously on Strange New Worlds because they're pretty episodic. But I could have used a little, like, here's what we've been doing.
I assumed there was going to be a previously on, and there wasn't. They just went straight into the episode. And it's like, dude, we really could have used a previously on, little montage. Like, shit, man, Kenobi had a previously on. and who the hell needs a montage of the prequels? Like,
right.
Like, your show hasn't been on for a couple of years. Like, give us a little recap. Like,
and I didn't remember the prequels were that awesome, man. That was
They weren't. It's a trick. They're not that awesome. The prequels are bad. It was, and I think we needed. And again, hindsight is perfect vision, whatever. But give us one episode of everybody bullying Isaac. And then the next episode is Isaac offing himself. A little bit more dramatic punch. A little bit more dramatic punch, I think. But again, I'm not complaining about the episode. I just think that might have been a better. I
think I would have loved that if nothing else was on. Yeah. I mean,
that's true.
With Obi-Wan and Strange New Worlds being awesome. Stranger Things, and then me and the missus are cracking through the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So I mean, that show's like bananas good. So it's this whole, like,
not to mention Top Gun. Like, Top Gun just came out. We're riding high. We're riding high on entertainment right now. So
it's hard to get into everything all at once.
Yeah,
but again, the thing with
the bottom of the barrel being scraped. I'm sorry, Top Gun was.
But it's good. It's a good, fun movie. If we're talking about the mass of entertainment at this exact moment, like, it's a fun movie.
It has to. You have to add that into the conversation.
Yeah.
Even me and Walker haven't seen it yet. That's amazing.
It's very fun. Look,
I'm gonna love it.
There's no science advisor on the movie, but it's very fun. All right, but I mean, to the point with the Orville is, I don't have the same existential problem because in my head I can say, okay, this is a different universe. Yes, they do Star Trek stories, and it's very Star Trek-ish, blah 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 blah. But I've already siloed it in my head over here. Star Trek's over here. Orville's over here, JJ's over here. So it's like, I can do that. It's trying to cram Strange New Worlds into my Star Trek brain that freaks me out, right?
I don't get where the bump is of it's a TOS reboot. Yes, it is.
I don't know either.
No, that's what it is.
I think they're playing the long game on those continuity issues. Especially because they know they've out of the gate, they know they've got 2 seasons. And now that it's a hit, we know we're going to see this for many seasons. So you can't, that's the meta story, right? That's how we get between from where we are now to what we remember as the original series. Obviously, some shit's got to go down. Some brain wiping, some history changing. And they've laid all the rails for that in the opening episodes with all that time travel jazz. The portal's still there, right? And the comet people. So I feel like they're gonna address continuity, and they're smart for not having done it right in
all,
the first couple
all
things.
at once.
I
Same
hope so,
here.
but they had the same sort of setup.
So cool.
They gave themselves the same setup in Discovery Season 1, and instead of taking the very obvious, oh, we're going to jump back in time and save and not have the Klingon War ever happen, they went in the future and made everything worse. Like it's just, it's the weirdest. I don't know. I have no trust in these people. I don't know.
I love Mario. He's like, yeah, they'll fix it. And only Manny Koto tried.
That's right.
It's like,
He tried.
It's like, I'll take jokes no one in my immediate family would get for 100, Alex.
We get it though.
Yes, that's the important part. Nice one, Mario.
Yeah, that was a good one, Mario. I totally get that too. Me, I also get it as well as these guys get it. I also get it.
It's not. Yeah, it's not worth explaining. He's a producer at the end of Enterprise.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Well, that reminds me. Speaking of credits, I looked in the credits. I wanted to see, like, they don't list the writer or writers of episodes. Is that? Didn't they used to?
Yeah,
it was writer.
Are you kidding? Because they had the writers credits, and
where was in the beginning or at the end? Because I went through. I looked at them before this, and I couldn't. I might have just glossed over them.
If I'm not mistaken, Writers Guild stuff is the last credit before the director. So the Writers Guild and the Directors Guild have arranged this thing that the director always gets it last, so the writers always get it second to last in the beginning. So I don't know if I'm right about that or not, but that's my
Does anyone care about writers, like who the writers of a particular episode are now?
Care.
I don't hear people talking about it much. Like
Larry and I talk about it. We might be the
only guys do. And they talk about classic episodes, but we've never mentioned a writer of Strange New Worlds by name, as far as I can recall.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah.
We've talked about it with Discovery, especially writers and directors.
Oh yeah, Alan McElroy. We've been Mark Bernardin on Picard a lot. Yeah, no, we mentioned the guys that are cool, and that's neat that I haven't mentioned the guys from Strange New Worlds yet, but it's because the episodes are good.
You don't.
So I'm paying attention to the episodes and not going, who wrote this bullshit? Like I would.
That's right. Are they the same writers though that wrote the series you hated, or did they bring in all new writers? And Larry, I think you were mentioning something about like it's a different director for each episode for the reason so that it had a more episodic feel. Was that you talking about that?
Maybe. I think the director stuff I was interested in are the live action guys are different from the visual effects guys. And so sometimes it makes for a really disjointed episode when somebody goes, look out the window at the blue sky. And it's like they decided to put dinosaurs and cavemen in it for some reason. Like, I mean, that's a stupid extreme example, but you know what I'm saying.
Actually, Frakes, quick shout out. Frakes talks about this very issue with his interview with John Sunches on Word Balloon. You should all go check that out. He talks about kind of the issues with dealing with what are they called? AR walls, augmented reality walls, where they don't do really green screens anymore. They do the AR, where like actors are actually looking at things. It's just kind of weird.
I love that.
I don't fully understand it, but yeah, it's a really good interview. You should check it out.
It's a big TV set behind you, you know, and it's cool, but it's also synced to the camera so that when the camera moves, it'll parallax move behind you.
Right.
And it also casts real light on the people, like light as if it was bouncing off of stuff in a real scene. And that's what gives it that look that's not all green screeny and like where the lighting is weird.
And I'll give George Lucas credit. Like I am very open about my dislike of George Lucas, but on the technical side is where he was the innovator. And for the prequels, he was using green screen. I mean, the stuff that we take for granted in movies now, he was really on the cutting edge of making. I mean, I don't know if he was the first person. I doubt he was the first person to do it, but
not for green screen, but certainly for fully animated CG characters. I think
exactly creating these virtual environments for actors and creating these virtual characters and everything. I'll give him all the credit in the world for stuff like that. Yeah, it's just storytelling and directing and writing and everything else he sucks at.
Well, and they learned a bunch of technical lessons from those things too, about what not to do, like how to have the actors have like fake eyeballs for the actors to look at, so their eye lines can be correct.
Yeah.
Where they're kind of off in Star Wars a lot of times, like people are looking off to the sides.
Can I bring it back to Strange New Worlds for a second when they're
Sure.
standing there, number one and Laan are standing out in front of the Scorch, and they look up as the CG sailboat thing goes by, and they're looking all like acting like, look at this. I got to my wife, I'm like, hey, she goes, what do you think they're looking at? I'm like, look at the teamster moving the tennis ball.
Yeah.
And so when you said that about getting the eyeline right, I just was like, man, we're making all the same jokes. I was just like a day ahead of you.
I think TJF brings a really good point, right? And it's one that people talk about a lot, where it's old Trek writers grew up on sci-fi books.
Yeah.
Current Trek writers grew up on sci-fi television. And I think about this because I've made the same criticism where it's like, oh, these writers, they don't know anything. They grow up on Transformers movies. And it's like, but A, how do we get around that? Because it's inevitable. B, that doesn't make old writers better per se. It makes them different. So there's still they're still making great movies that you can learn from. There's still great stories out there you can learn from, right? You know, if you don't read Lord of the Rings, but you still watch the trilogy, you're still getting this great epic storytelling, right? Even if you don't, and you're making that genre of entertainment. So does it matter? Right. And this is more of a rhetorical kind of prompt than anything else, where it's like, if only watching movies, but all you're going to do is make movies, is that even a bad thing? Right. Obviously, it's not ideal. You want to be exposed to so many other types of genre. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Because this is a common critique where it's like old sci-fi writers were effectively smarter and more educated because they read sci-fi novels. But I mean, Edgar Rice Burroughs wasn't writing, he was writing Pulp Fiction. He wasn't writing, the greatest American novel. So what do you guys think about that?
I think if the guys are aware of it, I'm kind of going through this with my kid who's super interested in screenplays and movies and stuff, that as long as it's cool if you do the research in your industry and just not forget about the rest of the world. I think that's the only answer, right? I mean, but I totally get what TJF is saying, right? That it's not even that they grew up on old school science fiction, is that they were old school science fiction writers themselves. I mean, it's like Theodore Sturgeon and, I don't know.
DC Fontana. I mean,
yeah, Harlan.
They're still
there's big shot guys. And I think that's why that Discovery thing with Walter Mosley just drives me insane. That it's like you want a real, prose writer who understands sweeping storytelling, and you get like that cool, like, hey, they got 47 minutes in them. Like that's what you want from those guys, right? Like, and I think that's what they were going with Chabot, right? It's just not what his name is.
Michael Chabon.
Yeah.
And again, though, I mean,
I just miss that guy so much. I can't remember his name. Here's the perfect
example, Michael Chabon, right? If the critique is you don't have good writers, good novelists, good storytellers, well, they brought in a Pulitzer-winning novelist, a guy that everyone here presumably has either read or likes or respects, and it's a disaster. Yeah. Like. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it again, but I mean that's the point where it's like it's kind of like I don't know. What do you guys think?
That's where I think the difference was in that case. They're taking Chabon and they're putting him overarching on the vision of this entire series, so he's telling this long story that's unfolding and blah blah blah, all his themes. Where in the old days, it was like fucking Rod Serling. He's badass. Right. Write us 60 minutes of badass television that is going to be gripping and that 60 million people will watch. Right. And like those guys could deliver on the goods in that way. It's a little bit, I don't know. And it's It's different. We've seen all those stories, those classic sci-fi stories. Arguably, certainly myself, I've heard those plots, but I've heard them in the cartoons and the comics and stuff that where those writers read the science fiction books and brought them in. Right. Like I know them through Alan Moore or through whoever. So you got to be informed by what's come before. You can't just go back to like, oh, I read all the Heinlein books, so I'm going to write good Star Trek. I don't think it's as easy as that.
Right. But to bring it back around, you guys love this week's episode. So doesn't that, really did. And to be fair, I have liked all of these episodes as well. I'm just having my own issues, my own internal issues about it, but that's not the point of this aside here. Have they succeeded? I mean, do they, presumably these are the same writers or the same group of writers, the same generation of writers who failed so miserably in previous Star Treks. Now they're succeeding. And you can say maybe it's because they tapped into the formula that has been already established. You can say whatever, but I mean, doesn't that negate the point?
No, I know exactly what it is. It's Kurtzman has nothing to do with this, and Akiva took over. So you can say what you want about Akiva Goldsman's thing, but that guy knows what he's doing. And he's just proven it now. It's like, oh, no, all these people want some Star Trek. I got this one, Alex. That's I'm pretty sure that's what this is.
Okay.
I want to see the whole season before we get to the end.
Yeah, yes.
Because if they're all like B pluses and above, I'm like, yes, they figured it out.
Well, that's my thing too, is okay, we're in this new age of what a series is. And we've gone through the phase where it's epic, long things, long stories being told. Now we're all the way back to episodic, yet with an overarching plot that goes on that spans the series. And honestly, I think that's the best way to tell these kind of stories. It's just where they take that overall meta story. They could go in the wrong direction at any time if they choose, if they think like it's not working. They'll do what they did on Discovery and just like, let's go back in time, or let's just pivot radically to please fans. And I don't think that's a good idea. I think the way they broke it up is genius to make the episode the core, because then you can have a stinker of an episode. You can try something radical and do a goofy duck amuck episode, whatever you want to call this one, and fail, and you didn't doom the whole series. We're not in for 4 years of this bullshit. You had one episode to do it, and we'll try something else the next episode.
I think that's so funny because everyone agrees with that. And again, not to overplug John Suntra's interview with Frakes. Frakes himself brings that up. He's like, yeah, we had the benefit of doing so. We were allowed to have stinkers every once in a while, because the audience knew the next week was probably going to be good. So it's interesting the way just everybody understands that.
It's it's definitely freeing, I think, for them.
Can I tell you this? We got the guys in today talking. I kind of feel like I could do another hour just addressing all the stuff going on in the comment section.
Yeah, we got a good comment section.
Yeah,
going.
So thank you guys.
Yeah, we got a little bit more time for sure. Let's bring in. Let's
hit some of these. Let's address some of these.
I definitely want to bring up Akiva did run Picard, so that is the very obvious counterpoint there. But again, Picard tried to tell a better story. They just screwed up along the way. So I don't know.
Yeah, this is where, guys, I think here's the thing: if they didn't fail. If they didn't put out these shitty series that were like the wrong direction, then they're probably not trying hard enough. Sure. Like I just saw that thing from Milton Glaser. Remember, Larry? There was that Milton Glaser thing in the comic we reviewed yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That quote from Milton Glaser about there's only one way to break through the fear of failure, and that is to embrace it. And so, like, I feel like Akiva, maybe he learned from Picard and from the feedback he got from Picard and goes, okay, now I know what to do. Like I was wrong in some ways there.
Yeah. I wish it didn't take destroying our favorite character to get there, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it is taking we're in a greatest hits kind of mode in a lot of ways. but fucking A, it's better
Yeah.
than.
I'm cool with that. That's why they're greatest hits, right? I
Yeah.
love Dire Straits.
Well,
and
it's
Sultans
tricky,
of
right?
Swing.
Strange New Worlds is tricky because they have to like this is the universe. The universe includes Lirpas, and it includes it's just it's weird. If you're loading your cast with characters the audience already knows, you can't get away from that, right? It's weird.
Wait, here's one right up my alley, man.
Reboot. Don't care.
Serling and Roddenberry, both World War II suffered from PTSD. This helped inform their brand of sci-fi. Maybe something missing today.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about it that it did.
Absolutely.
I love that probably fueled their creativity and prolificness, right? Because you don't know when the next bullet's coming. So that's why you get Rod Serling going, here's a thing, here's a brilliant thing, here's another brilliant thing, week after week after week. And Roddenberry, he lasted 2 years on his own show, but some people are better at administrative and creative at the same time than others. But he had a singular vision too. And I think that's kind of what puts me off about modern Star Trek, except for the Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds, is that it's just like it's fucking lazy. Like, a whole season is 10 episodes of shit you don't care about. Okay. Like, where's 10 episodes of like cool idea? Amazing one for the books, disappointing failure, but nice try. Like, where are all those, right? That's what people want.
They need the Babylon 5 kind of setup where it's like they're episodic, but you have this intertwining like narrative, right? That's what they should have gone for, and it's not what they did.
Yeah.
For the World War II thing, I think that's a really great point though, because not just Roddenberry, but other people on staff. I mean, Bob Justman, who designed everything, was a very practical engineer. Like, he knew how things worked. Like, so the Enterprise felt real because it had a ladder where there was supposed to be a ladder,
Yeah.
and ranks were ranks.
Down to the actors, though, right?
Sounded like
James Doohan.
James Doohan's a D-Day hero,
Yeah.
So
anyway, I just thought that was cool. You're absolutely right. The world was just different.
I mean, right down to just like the post Cold War alienation feeling, the neutral zone being, all of that stuff just being a stand-in for the world that he had come out of that war into. I find it kind of interesting that it's very Star Trek is militaristic, like we said, but like I never really understand if it's a socialist, fully socialist society. Like, now are there any like private enterprises, for lack of another word? Are there like private businesses in the Star Trek future? Who's making money?
I think it's more, ironically enough, I think it's more of like a Roman setup where the state controls things and people do things on their own, but ultimately the state's in charge of everything, which I think is almost more interesting because we, because of our history, we think of things in terms of communist versus capitalist, right? And I think it's more interesting to think of the pre-modern world, and it's like you have the Roman state controls everything. Federation controls this, and this, right? And so your world is ostensibly an independent world, except you're part of the Federation Empire, for lack of a better word, right? I think that's almost a more interesting way to think about it, but I haven't fully fleshed that out, so I'm not entirely sure.
And also, if you think about a post-scarcity world, though, like where everybody can have a synthesizer that can make anything, that automatically sort of like decentralizes everything. And so there's less of a need for centralized control over like civilian society, for lack of a better word. So maybe people just get the groove and do their own thing and eat synthetic synthachow,
That'd be nice.
I was just thinking about the very first Star Trek aired episode where they're there to make sure everybody gets salt, right? And so, but if you have replicators, that's not an issue. And so you would never even have that episode, right? I just, that's kind of funky. Never had that thought.
Well, the socialist, everyone has unlimited access to everything. That's more of a TNG thing. And that comes out of Roddenberry's 70s kind of new age thinking, right? In the 60s, that's not what he was thinking. In the 60s, this is USPA, you know.
Oh,
going out
very much
patrolling.
so.
Right.
This is the Coast Guard going out and patrolling the universe.
I never heard
Oh,
anybody
more.
try to pronounce US before.
I thought about it for a second and I pulled the
No,
trigger.
but I was with you.
Let's do
I'm
it.
like, oh, he's doing it. Oh, right on. I know what you're talking about, John.
But I mean, more than that, it was not a post-scarcity world. It was the scarcity of dilithium literally was the motivating factor of everything going on behind the scenes in Star Trek.
Everything.
And the
because
discovery,
you can't refine dilithium until TNG era when they have the ability to refine dilithium, right? So that's an interesting change. That change.
I think that's the most, honestly, is the most interesting change between old Star Trek and Next Generation to me is that one conceptually, because to me, I've said this on the show before, the whole idea of first contact, right? That we only contact you once you have attained faster than light speed is just a back-coded way of saying, oh, they have dilithium. Like there's a huge universe. Who do we go after? We look for warp signatures. Right. And that means there's dilithium there because even in the future, the universe is so vast they can't explore everywhere.
I never thought about that. That means there's dilithium on Earth.
It's got to be.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, but I mean they haven't explored that ever in a.
I don't know.
Well, I mean
maybe
that's
it's under Antarctica. We'll find.
That's where Zephram Cochrane got it from, though, right? There was no like. I don't know. Anyway,
and the Federation predates, but the Federation predates Earth being in the Federation, right? It's like there was a Federation that approached us in first contact.
Well, it was just the Vulcans. It was just the Vulcans. Enterprise painstakingly goes through the sequence of events and how Jonathan Archer is the savior of mankind and how he creates the what is it, the Confederation of Planets or something, which becomes the United Federation of Planets or whatever it's called. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to watch those again.
Yeah,
it's
boring.
That's why I don't remember them.
I love political history, and I'm like, I'm good. Yeah, I got
it. And I brought this up before too. If you look at the fact that once humans join the Federation, suddenly everything is like Earth-style American military nomenclatures and ranks and ship names and all this stuff that like human culture is either like so rich that and like those people are, everybody else is kind of boring and like human culture just dominates or something. I don't know what that.
I think that's a function of the universal translator and broadcasting these historical documents to the world. You know, because at some point, if you make stuff so alien the way it should be, there's no communication, right? Like every episode is like the arrival, like where you have to. I think this shape ink blot means 5. You know, it's like you got to start somewhere.
Right.
And I would just rather get right to the pew pew. Like, where are the Klingons? At least they mentioned them in this episode. I want to see what the Klingons look like in this TOS reboot.
It's going to be some ridiculous thing, and I'm dreading it.
Well,
Mario has a good point. I was hoping dilithium was what Rene Picard found on Io. That would have been an interesting plot twist, right? That would have been really interesting instead of some goo that heals people or whatever.
I know.
Anyway, okay.
That's
All right. Well,
Earth and Enterprise was created Federation.
Don't forget the cumulative.
Didn't they deal with that? I thought they hand waved that one.
They did. They brought it up as a very poor environmentalism lecture, and then they hand waved it away. Jordy was like, "Oh, I got this. I'm just gonna recalibrate the deflector."
Right. Oh, I'll just reset the breakers.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Self-service posing as humanism as honestly, I believe the secret subtext of Star Trek. That's what
I mean. You know, as we all want to think Gene Roddenberry was some hippie or whatever, he's still a Cold War American capitalist.
Yeah, totally.
Like he's still a neoliberal in kind of the modern sense of how we use it. He does believe in American exceptionalism. He just believes in humanism through American exceptionalism. It's very weird when you put it all together. But Roddenberry's a weird guy. So
what are you gonna do?
Well, it's pretty cool that
Sad to
his
say.
it's
Oh, sorry.
pretty awesome
Sorry, writer.
that it's pretty awesome that stuff that he wrote. Like, I honestly cannot believe anybody would have thought that this far into the future we'd still be like doing referencing this series. Like, it just it set the mold in so many ways that it's almost like it's the template, in the sense that like all the things that they do that we take for granted in series, like it's all comes out of Star Trek, like all the jokes and all the tropes and everything.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Humans like Klingon and Borg are a major prolific colonizing species bound to expand limits, and the Federation was the Vulcan way of keeping them under control. Yeah, Enterprise really leaned into that, where Enterprise made the Vulcans kind of like, oh, calm down there, humans. Everything's going to be okay. Just stay in your own solar system.
I think that kind of makes sense too, in a way. Although, I don't think that they had, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that the Vulcans, when they contacted us, would we really respond? Like, would we? It would be an automatic, like, warlike response. For think about it today, if there were any kind of alien
we'd be
contact
screwed.
at all. Speaking of which, are you guys watching the stuff about the UFOs, that the actual UFOs leaks and stuff that the government has been dropping?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's coming. It's coming sooner than we think. Like,
I thought it's been coming.
The Navy
70s.
literally in the middle of the pandemic, the Navy dropped friggin' files and files and files, thousands of files on all the UFO sightings they've had. Like, literally in the middle of the pandemic, they're like, nobody's paying attention. Here, UFOs are real, by the way. Just
Right.
FYI.
Exactly.
It's crazy. And nobody cared. It was the craziest thing. The news didn't even cover it. It got like one line in the New York Times. It was ridiculous. Friggin' the guy from Blink-182 is our greatest ufologist. It's insane. It's insanity. We live in an insane world.
I feel like they're prepping us for something. They're getting us ready for something.
Well,
they sure are. It's coming. It's coming sooner than later, I'm telling you.
I thought Close Encounters was a documentary because
might as well, man.
When I was that age, like, there was a thing called schwa, and it was just the alien, big-eyed, the thing from Communion, what everybody thinks of as grays. Mm-hmm. That was just everywhere. And when you think about it, that's been an undercurrent in our society since then.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, they've been preparing us for something, I'm pretty sure.
I mean,
that's my
people who know nothing about the topic can visualize what a gray alien looks like.
Right.
Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. We're all fucked.
It's entered the site, guys.
Loch Ness.
Philo nailed it, I think. And
it's a cookbook. That's right. I have my Star Trek cookbook around here somewhere. We'll get there soon enough.
Oh, guys. Hey, man. You know that sound.
All right, guys.
I love we're going out on UFOs are real. Warn the people.
UFOs are real. All right.
Guys, we'll be back next week. We're riding a high. We're riding a crest of a great, positive, serious Star Trek episode. So let's keep the love flowing, shall we? And speaking of love, guys, you folks out there, if you haven't already, please consider hitting like on this video or subscribing to this channel on YouTube. Click over onto YouTube and subscribe to this thing. Give us a like. We appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
But I'm going to take you out. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I want to take us out on what have I got? Oh my gosh. This conversation has made me so hungry. I need a little bit of a snack. And so let's go on out and we'll see you guys next.
Ciao, do, recht Skid Trickske von Flunk, Edgy Tech Bratic Slugs, Rash Sock Sock Sock. Crow Bratic Slugs.
Recht ab Licht.